Hey guys, welcome back to a painter's vlog. My name is Julia and I have been living in Cambodia for 3 years now. I've not posted on my channel in well over a year and there are reasons for that, good and bad. I'm here to say that I'm back to post new content for you all, and this video is going to be a little bit juicy, a little bit informative. Stay tuned because we're going to talk about several things that have to do with Kampuchea or Cambodia. Atet moon grusan nyom mauleng nyom.
Send both tiang pi.
You know what? I hope you're recording this because there's abuse in this session. Before I film this video, let's get some lunch. J'aimerais Psua, Niom Chmua Julia, Hai Ruanau Kampuchea Baichnam Hai. Niom Jil Te Niom Songat Svaidankam. So basically, what I just said there was that my name is Julia and I have been living in Cambodia for 3 years. I actually live in the neighborhood called Svai Dankam. It's just been a wild journey, guys. I don't even know how to explain everything that's happened, but in this Q&A video, I'm going to be laying over some pictures, maybe even some footage as I answer these questions. And I'm going to rapid fire each question to myself. So I haven't read these questions in a while. So as I read each question, there's going to be an element of surprise. So you guys, with that being said, hey, I'm back to my channel. I cannot believe that I left for over a year, probably like a year and a half or something. And firstly, I just want to apologize because there have been some people that have asked over that time where I've been and what I've been doing. I've gone through a radical awakening. I have dissected deep shadow sides of myself. I have meditated, I have prayed, I have wailed to the high heavens, I've cried, I've kicked, I've screamed, like everything in between. It's been a wild ride and I wouldn't have it any other way, honestly. All of that probably has very little to do with Cambodia, but more so to do with how this amazing place has affected me in very positive ways, to the degree that I feel like I'm more rapidly consciously awakening on this side of the world. Let's go ahead and dive into this Q&A video because I'm just like ready to get back, fresh beginnings. Honestly, it feels like 2025 just started, even though it's March. This is my birthday month and I just had this download that I'm supposed to be doing YouTube again. If you guys like content about foreign places, about rural living, about what life would be like living in a small country like Kampuchea or Cambodia, please feel free to subscribe to my channel so you'll never miss a video moving forward. As a little bit of background, I grew up in the States. I grew up in Michigan and I was actually born in Flint, Michigan. The place I actually grew up was 15 minutes east of Flint, a small town called Davison. Grew up on a farm, and then I went to college, and then I lived in Chicago for 9 years, lived in New York for 3 years, and I moved to Cambodia in 2022. I fell in love with Cambodia from the time that I first came here in 2015. I am obsessed with Cambodia. I'm living in Cambodia because this place has helped to heal my heart. Let's go ahead and jump into the Q&A portion of this video, which is going to be the main part of the video. I'm gonna try to go quick, so stay with me. We are starting with a question by Karina. Karina asks, what is it like being a single female in Cambodia? I think that's an amazing question to start with. There's a lot of men that move to Cambodia and there are various reasons for that, but we won't divulge too much. A lot of the females that I meet here who are single are very, very independent, as you would imagine. And they're here for various reasons. My personal reason was that I was in a 6-year relationship before I moved here and the relationship wasn't aligning with some of my higher purposes. I was also drinking alcohol and I decided to quit drinking at that time and I just needed to leave the country. I've never really held traditional ideologies so close to my chest. By that I just mean that I don't have children. I never intended to. I never wanted to have children. I've never been married. My priorities have always really lied with my creativity and my art making. Not to say that love isn't important to me, but I just really, really value highly creativity, equality. I've always valued health. And with that being said, like right now, the center of my flower is myself and allowing my creativity flourish. Overall, I feel very, very safe here in Siem Reap. I think there was really only 1 or 2 instances in which I didn't feel safe. One involved a pack of dogs chasing me home to my Wapo house, which I then decided to move out of there because I'm talking an entire pack of dogs, several packs of dogs. And then the other time I was freaked out was when a tuk-tuk driver, he was right out here on Funky Lane because I've since moved. He kind of followed slowly behind me. In those instances, just always make sure you're in a well-lit area and make sure that you have your phone at the ready, and also make sure that you're not walking home alone late at night. I mean, that's how safe I feel, honestly. As a woman, also, if you go to parties, you should always watch your drink, lest you be drugged. There are some interesting and wild drugs that are going around Cambodia right now. I just find so much liberation and so much independence living here. I just live my daily life. I go to the gym, I work, I have a beautiful set of friends, I go out dancing. I've recently been dating someone for 4 months, so that's a little bit different than being a single female, but for the majority of time that I've been living in Cambodia, I have been single. I walk around the streets by myself and I feel really, really safe. You know, just always make sure that you keep your wits about you. I always tell any human being this: don't drink too much when you're in a place where you don't know who you can trust or you don't know who you're around. Second question comes from Benjamin Gauthier. Benjamin asks, what about diseases and what about giant bugs? This is a very normal question. Diseases, you can get elephantitis. It's extremely rare. I've never known a human being to have elephantitis in Cambodia. However, some people do recommend the vaccination against that. Hepatitis, hepatitis C, hepatitis B. I remember getting shots before I came here. You could get rabies from rabid dogs or even monkey bites. So all of these things are generally found more in wild areas. So, you know, I kind of stick to Siem Reap or the city. Oh, you can also get dengue fever from the mosquito. Fingers crossed, I have not gotten dengue fever yet, but that is a possibility and it's absolutely terrible. So it's just kind of like a flu-like thing that happens to you, and sometimes it lasts for weeks. And also sometimes it has really weird side effects. And then with regard to any weird giant bugs, I would say the worst case scenario is that you have a scorpion in your room or you have a deadly snake, okay? In my case, I don't really get those things because I'm on the 3rd floor. And so yeah, so if you do not like bugs, get yourself a nice cozy apartment 3, 4, 5 floors up. Do not do a garden apartment because you're gonna be sleeping with the tarantulas, bro, like for real. I got a tarantula in my room like a few weeks ago and that was terrifying enough for me. I had to call the landlord and have them come up and just get this thing out of my apartment. Also, another big part of Cambodia is that a lot of people eat bugs here. So you can eat crickets, you can eat bee larvae, you can eat tarantulas, scorpions, ants, anything that kind of moves, as long as it doesn't have poison in it, you can generally eat here in Cambodia, and I've tried all of them.
We put 2 kinds of ants, some big flying ants that taste a bit sour and nutty at the same time. They're very good in a salad, for example. And we put some red ants, you know, the fire ants you see everywhere around here that sting very hard, that are very painful and aggressive. We cook them mainly because we hate them, in fact, it's revenge. Oh my god! Here we have the samosa. So inside you have a tarantula, it's chopped, and we mix it with spinach, feta cheese, garlic and parsley. It's very easy to eat. Here we have 2 small croquettes. They're made with taro root, you know it? Yes. Some kind of local sweet potato. We mix it with silkworms, and it goes with a green apple and wasabi sauce. Silkworms once again. 2 small scorpions. We can ask some for some more if you want. And this one is a giant water bug.
I've even tried snake, and yeah, I don't like any of them. Okay, Javiyoshi asks, what is the biggest lifestyle adjustment living there in Cambodia? I'd say the biggest adjustment is not speaking a language and just going with the flow. Once you move here, something that you learn to realize quite quickly is that Cambodians have a very different sense of time. In the United States, they would always be considered late. However, part of the culture here is setting a time, and then generally about half hour later, then people will show up. Now, this doesn't apply to everything, like really important work meetings and things like that, although I have had people show up late even for work meetings. Now, Barangs and foreigners do not do this, but yeah, it's just something that I've really had to adjust to here because it can be really, really frustrating when you're trying to set a time for something and then your friend doesn't show up on time. Like, for example, if I have to get something done for the gallery because I'm the director of a gallery, I find myself sometimes having to write or rewrite a certain person in order to get them to do it maybe a little bit quicker. And it's not necessarily good or bad, it's just something that I've noticed that I've had to do. Like if I'm ordering postcards, I'll just be like, hey, what's the deadline on those postcards? Hey, Just seeing where those postcards are. Hey, and I know that I'm annoying to those people, but I do know that those people, even in the future, will probably take note and they'll be like, dude, just get this girl out of our hair. Make sure you get the postcards done on time, period. And that's just something I've had to adjust to. It's not the worst thing, but yeah. Gary Tax Sally writes, why are we here? What does this all mean? Is there a God? I should know that after my insane awakening, but I don't. What's the Cambodian take on pineapples on pizza? And another person actually asked about pizza as well, so I'm just going to address pizza in Cambodia. Pizza in Cambodia does exist. However, there is foreigner pizza or traditional Italian pizza, maybe even like New York style, or, you know, I don't think we have Chicago style yet, or deep dish. Even though some people argue that deep dish is not Chicago style. Come on. I've noticed some really interesting things that are happening with Cambodian pizza. One of which is pizza, and then in the crust, there's like little hot dogs. Like for some reason, hot dogs is really popular on pizza here, as is stuffed crust. And then I've been seeing this thing that Domino's does. I don't know if this is global, but it's called a volcano pizza, where there's this huge trench of cheese in the middle, and then you dip the pizza in there. It's almost like a natto cheese. And I don't know what's going on. There are some bastardizations of pizza here in Cambodia. I'm the first to admit. It doesn't mean I'm dogging Cambodian pizza. It's just very different is all, because I've never seen those types of pizzas in the United States. Italian pizza also has been bastardized by other nationalities as well. With that being said, my favorite pizza places in the city would be Amici. It would be El Forno, which has been a long-running restaurant here. I love El Forno. I think they do a bang-up job. I've been eating them for years because they've been around for a long time. I order from Hasta La Vista sometimes. I've been to a really good women-run coal pizza place. There's a lot of coal ovens in town. I know that Le Tigre or Paper Tiger is really good for pizza, but I haven't tried yet. But yeah, there's a lot of places for pizza in town. I will say that pizza is a little more expensive than other food items. For example, I get my Indian thali set for $1.50. Whereas pizza generally costs between $7 and $15 here, which is very expensive for Cambodian standards. You can always find deals on Nom 24. Like I'll usually get a margarita pizza from like local that's like $5 or $6, so that's not bad at all. Again, remember Cambodian prices, because I know y'all are probably freaking out at what I'm saying right now. Okay, Chad Rubel writes, what is one thing you love about Cambodia that the United States cannot provide? I answered this loosely in a recent interview with Austin Tekwa, and that's basically the fact that I feel a real sense of togetherness here and family unit, and I really love the sense of community. Community is the first word that pops to mind because Cambodians eat together, there's a sense of camaraderie. My friends and I, we go out to see music, we go out dancing, like there's just a real high vibe and sense of community here with the expats and with the Cambodians. I find that with the United States, there's a strong emphasis on autonomy and freedom, but with that is a double-edged sword, because also people are feeling isolated, lonely, and they don't feel like they have the help that they need. I'm not saying Cambodia is perfect, I'm just saying with this one element, I feel more of a sense of community here. Molly Hazelkamp asks, what are the biggest culture shocks going there? And then what are the biggest culture shocks going back? The biggest culture shock coming here is just the sense of time. It feels like you're actually going back in time. A lot of the growth of Cambodia was actually stunted in the 1970s when there was a genocide. Hip hop is just new here, you know, in the past few years. LGBTQ, body acceptance, even going to the gym and regarding health as a priority is quite new here. Art scene is quite new here. There's certain facets that sound kind of strange or weird, but they're totally new here because the growth was stunted from that genocide. So these second and third generations coming from that war-torn era are now creating their own voices for themselves, and it's a highly exciting time. Going back to the United States, I'd say there's a huge emphasis on consumerism. Here in Cambodia, people do not buy things unless they need them generally. Of course, there's a wealthier set that will always buy things that they don't need just to show off and to flaunt. That's just human nature. The average Cambodian person never buys more than what they need, and they shop in a very Parisian style in the sense that you'll go to the market, you get your fresh vegetables, and then you cook with those vegetables in the next day or two. When I go back to the United States, I find myself jumping onto Amazon almost immediately. Part of that is because I can get things that I cannot get here. I can get them there. But then the other side of it is like, I don't know, it's just like almost this insidious thing that just saturates your being. It just feels like all of a sudden you want to buy things. Coming back, I just all of a sudden don't want to buy things. So I don't know. And that's maybe the crazy way that propaganda and advertising and just an overall feeling. Aida Farhood writes, what were your lifestyle changes and were they dramatic? Lifestyle changes actually were for the better here because right before I moved to Cambodia, I was actually living in Brooklyn. So I'd say the differences between Cambodia and Brooklyn are quite astounding. One being you can get anywhere in Siem Reap within 5 minutes. The overhead or rent is only $300 a month, and my apartment actually includes 24-hour security, an elevator, linen changes, and full cleaning service 1 time a week. I'm living in a really cool neighborhood centrally located in Svaidangam. I love my neighborhood, and yeah. And I would be totally remiss to not mention the weather because the weather here is freaking insane, which brings me to my next question. Ellen Maidman Tanner, she says, what is the weather like, the seasons, the flora, the fauna? It's such a funny question because Cambodia doesn't have 4 seasons like you would experience in traditional North America or other places. I feel like Cambodia has only 2 or 3 seasons, and I say that because one would be the rainy season, which usually lasts July, August, September, October, November, so about 4 or 5 months, give or take a little bit. That's my favorite season because everything is lush, verdant, and stunning. Like the rice fields are popping like an electric green you've never seen. Then the other season would be hot. And then I would say the 3rd season is hot as balls because we have a dry season or a hot season that happens right after rainy season. But then after that, in the months of April, May, and June, it is so hot that your freaking face wants to melt off and you have to walk slow. You're literally melting into the street. You cannot hold a face of makeup to save your life. You better get your setting spray. You might not even be able to wear jean shorts because they'll just be plastered to your leg. During the hours between 11 and 5, most of us don't even go outside. And if you do have to go outside, you better cover yourself with a long sleeve shirt, a wide brimmed hat. A lot of Cambodians will actually even wear gloves and things like that because they want to shield themselves from the glare of the sun. If you see this, which is an interesting thing in public, like if you see windbreakers and turtlenecks and gloves and long clothing, it's twofold. One, it keeps the heat off the arms, but then the other reason is that Cambodians do not want dark brown skin because dark brown skin is a signifier that one is a worker or working in the fields or working class. So it's not so much a race issue, it's more so a class issue. White skin is seen as a sign of privilege and wealth. So yeah, that's just a little side note, but yeah, Cambodia generally has 2 seasons. I would say hot and rainy. If you want to throw in the hot as balls season, then fine. It is like melt your face. I cannot feel my face with you, hot as balls. James Atwood says, what are the foods like? What are the best foods? So I just gotta be real, and please, Cambodians, do not come at me with any hate. Cambodian food is not necessarily my top choice when it comes to foods. I love Indian food. So there's a restaurant in town called Currywalla, and you guys are going to be deceased when you hear the cost of my usual delivery order from Currywalla. Currywalla is a traditional Indian restaurant, but they have this clay tandoori oven in the front of the restaurant. And I get my fish tikka from there. I eat fish and vegetables only. I don't eat other kinds of meat. So fish to me is very, very important. It really has to be clean. They make this fish tikka in that tandoori oven and it is absolutely delicious. I think it's just classic river fish from the region. And then I get a thali set for $1.50. So the thali set includes vegetable of the day, sometimes lentils or garbanzo beans or things like that. And then it includes freshly baked naan and jasmine rice, and it's insane. Like, I get my food delivery for less than $3. I bet that was not the answer you were expecting, but Siem Reap is actually a huge foodie town. We have tons of French restaurants. We have great Italian restaurants. We have a Michelin restaurant called Cuisine Wat Dam Nak that I highly recommend. It's a coursed out meal. I think the set meal is $45, but it always changes. It rotates seasonally and the flavors are always so uniquely paired. So highly recommend that. And then right next door is Jam No, which is a contemporary Khmer cuisine. So there is some really, really delicious Cambodian food. Of Cambodian food, my 2 favorite dishes are the fish amok, which is the national dish of Cambodia. It's really delicious. It's made with garlic, lemongrass, and local fish it's kind of like a paste and comes with greens as well, and served traditionally in a coconut or a banana leaf. And then the other dish would be nam ban chak, which is a fermented noodle dish, and it comes with like a green curry. That's the one that I really like, and all sorts of leafy vegetables, and it is to die for. Adam Grossi, who is a mutual artist, he interviewed me in the past, has a great question, and this is for the artists out there. He says, I'd like to know how your painting process has shifted there, both in terms of practical matters such as studio needs and metaphysical ones. Do you fish for ideas in a different way? I came to Cambodia with a decent amount of savings after selling quite a few paintings, and you know, that was to set me up for a good 2 years, and I really wasn't going to look for a job or do anything like that. I actually just really wanted to come to Cambodia with the intention of focusing on painting, TikTok, and YouTube, and I've done that. Cambodia is very scarce for painting materials. You can find certain oil paints and brushes at the local IBC, which is the Independent book center. And then there's also a place called TOA Paint Center. So artists, if you're coming to Siem Reap, look for TOA on Highway 6 or the IBC. Both of those places have oil paints. I have come across Lazada, which is really interesting. I didn't realize that I could use Lazada to order my actual oil paints, Gamblin oil paints. I can get them shipped in from Bangkok, because before that, my friends and I would have to go to Bangkok to find really good high quality paints that we would use back in the States. And that's not really necessarily so convenient to jump on a plane just to get paints, but I've done it. And I've done it for my friends here too who paint. So now there's a website you may or may not have heard of. It's similar to Amazon. It's called Lazada. Anytime I order on Lazada, they ship to an address in Bangkok, and then they ship to a warehouse in Siem Reap, and then they deliver to my house. So it's a very roundabout way. I've gotten into this group where you can do that. So the accessibility of materials is really the biggest hurdle that you have to overcome as an artist here. With regard to studio, I've always just worked from my home, so that really hasn't been impacted at all. I keep a nice small apartment here, and I have a really nice small tidy studio. And also I've been using the Colors of Cambodia Art School as a little storage space for my biggest painting. And then I have another couple paintings hanging in the gallery. And then with regard to how my practice has shifted in metaphysical ways, or the ways in which I see the world, my painting practice has slowed down, but that is mostly because of this like really crazy spiritual in-depth work I've been going through. And wow, it's just been wild out here in the mind. It's not to say that I'm not still working, but my shift has really gone into social media. It's gone into rapid healing. I did 2 10-day Vipassanas in 2023, which was a huge deconstruction of the mind, meditating for 8 hours a day in complete silence for 10 days. And yeah, so a lot of my focus has actually been on internal healing, a lot of journaling, a lot of prayer, a lot of meditation. My practice hasn't really shifted too much in those senses, because I still consider myself a hunter-gatherer. I'm always looking for ideas. I'm always hunting for ideas out in the wild world, and then I keep them categorized in folders on my computer. And then the way that I execute those ideas is the strongest ideas get the biggest canvas size, and then the more supporting paintings usually get the medium size formats. And then like the more ancillary pieces would be small format, if that makes any sense. So Carlos Rolón, another really good artist friend of mine from Chicago, he says, are you doing a Cambodian YouTube version of The Bachelorette? Yeah, no comment. My friend Tamara Paulson has a great question. She said, I'd like to know how you became connected with Colors of Cambodia, and if it was that connection that inspired you to choose that country, or if it was something else. So Colors of Cambodia is the NGO that I've been working with for the past 8 years. I actually met Bill Gentry, the founder of Colors of Cambodia, in 2015, the first time that I came here. Met him completely randomly. He was playing music on stage, and then I completely randomly ran into the school right in town. I came back to Cambodia in response to the mass shootings that were happening in the United States, because I felt helpless. I was on a train heading back to Chicago. I was just about to move to New York, and I reached out to Bill Gentry to see if he had a volunteer opportunity for me, because I wanted to come back to Cambodia for 2 or 3 months. So I ended up coming back, volunteered for 25 hours a week. Volunteering with the students at Colors of Cambodia irrevocably changed my life. Of course, first, the family of Colors of Cambodia changed my life. The openness and the kindness of Pani's heart, my sister, Jetethnium, and her twin sister, Sopanin. Because the music was so loud on Pub Street, the two twin sisters let me into their home. And I stayed there for a few days while I was looking for a new apartment. And it was my first time that I really encountered the depth of Cambodian generosity. I'm getting chills as I'm saying this because Pani basically put me in her bedroom and then she slept in her sister's room, like for that whole time. Like, I can't imagine someone in the United States like doing that. Like, I also at that time developed a huge community in town, like a big artistic community. I don't even know. I mean, Siem Reap's kind of small, but I fell into meeting a lot of these people, like my friend Aiming and Danny and this guy Sean that was running Gallery 111 at the time. He was friends with my friend Gary Baseman back in California. So there were these really serendipitous ways, you know, in which things were happening. My friend Tamara, who's also a local painter. My friend Scotty, who was like ripping on saxophone and he could read minds, you know, like just a whole cast of characters. One thing about me is I never really felt like I fit in anywhere in life, you know, from the time that I was a young girl growing up. And when I came to Cambodia, there was something about the setup of this town and the cast of characters and the sense of community of the Cambodians. Even the smell of the air and even the way that the sky looked that cracked my heart open. So it was definitely an umbrella of things, but I will say Colors of Cambodia was the reason why I came back to Cambodia in 2017 after that initial visit in 2015. I can safely say that that changed the trajectory of everything. Nariman Savavi says, how does living in Cambodia affect the creative process? New stimulus, Cambodian friends, how receptive are they to foreigners, and do you hang around the expats? I have Cambodian friends, obviously. They are very receptive to foreigners. It just depends. And I do hang around expats as long as they are not the 50 centers or the people who are just here to drink cheap beer and pick up women. I just can't relate and I don't really identify with that demographic. But I do hang out with the expats who are just really cool, really grounded. I mean, not everyone that comes to Cambodia has to do something spectacular. I choose my friends wisely because I am interested in hanging around creatives and people that are just doing cool shit. I mean, I'm an artist. I've always done that. And on top of that, I'm also interested in people who are creating effective change here. So people that are making changes in the community and people who are bettering life for Cambodians. Some of my friends run NGOs, some of my friends are artists, some of my friends are business owners. It just depends. The expats are a mishmash here. Another question from someone, I think I'm just going to keep this one private. He says, I deal with a lot of guilt and shame for choosing me and following my own path. And my successes have left me separated from family and friends at times, and I often feel isolated. Have you faced those conditions on your path, and how have you overcome them? There's an element of guilt sometimes that I feel having chosen to come live in Cambodia, and that element of guilt is that I'm not going to be around my family to see and witness them getting older. Specifically my mom and dad. My mom is 76 and my dad is 77. My dad recently had a hole sewn up in his heart. Since I've been here, he's had a stroke. Even before that, years ago, he had a heart attack and a terrible fall where he had to have his hip replaced. So my father's gone through a lot. My mother's gone through things too. Obviously, she's gone through changes. And, you know, without just getting into everything, ultimately, when you choose to live in a country that is so far from your own country, it's very expensive to get back. And you have to go knowing that you're going to be missing your family getting old. And it's really difficult. For the past few years, I've only been able to go home once a year. My goal, now that I'm really aiming to make more money right now, is to get home twice a year because you feel like you're on borrowed time. There is an element of guilt when you choose yourself. My North Star is actually liberation, and that means living so authentically and radically to your own truth and what that North Star is for you, that you're willing to sacrifice almost anything. That's not to say I don't love my family deeply, obviously. My mom and sister actually just came here last week, so that was like really cool, really special. I think that with anything in life, you just have to dive in. You have to go for what you want to do in life. You cannot let anything hinder your path of success. Now, of course, you're going to provide for your family. You're going to provide for your wife or your husband in the ways that you can. But you cannot negotiate your own boundaries and you cannot negotiate your own values. When you negotiate your own values, that's when you start to resent your partner in a relationship, or you resent some facet of your life. And looking at your own values, I think that's deeply important to like literally lay them out and then see where your values are now, and then see how the dynamic of something in your life might be impacting that. I literally did this with my therapist recently, and it was amazing. And it's been so extremely beneficial to deal with any of those feelings of guilt and creating your own boundaries for yourself in order to remain not just physically healthy, but mentally healthy. Because if you're not honoring your creativity, which is a very, very high value, then you will not be emotionally healthy, period. Those negotiations have to be made with your family, so I think that a lot of clear communication needs to be had with with your children, with your families, and with people in your life. Clear communication must be had so that people always feel held, they always feel loved, even when you're really, really busy honoring your North Star. That can be really difficult to do, especially if you yourself are an empath, or you feel feelings of guilt, or like you take other people's feelings on. You're gonna feel missed. You're gonna feel, you're gonna have people say that they miss you, that they want you to come home, they want you to move back. I mean, my family's given up on me, and that's a good thing, like, because I'm gonna be here for a long time. Okay, and the final question comes from Cynthia Gregor, and she says, what is your biggest fear? Super appropriate being the last question. My biggest fear is waking up at the end of my life, looking back at my life and realizing that I lived in fear, or that I didn't do something because I was too afraid. So my fear is literally being too afraid to have done what I needed to do in this lifetime. So I will never let anything get on my path again, and I will eradicate everything, including ego, relationships that are bad for me, friendships that are bad for me. I will eradicate substances that are bad for me. That's why I haven't drank alcohol in 3 years. I will remove any obstacles from my path. And believe me, sometimes I place those obstacles there myself. Let's be realistic. I'm not a fucking angel, but like, sometimes that's part of the path, is like, okay, Julia, you've got yourself in a little bit of a pickle. What are you gonna do to change your life? And if growth comes from that, I'm so freaking happy. Nowadays, I look at most things from a very growth mindset, and that's been immensely beneficial. All right, y'all, so that's it for today's video. I hope y'all enjoyed the entrance into the new era of my YouTube channel. I'm super excited to be back on this platform. I also want to give a huge thank you to those who have remained loyal subscribers, or who maybe just forgot to unsubscribe, but for all of y'all who have stayed here for my journey, or who have checked in to ask about me, I just want to say thank you so much, because I've read most of those comments and they mean a lot to me. Thank you so much for your encouragement and your support on this platform, because I think part of the reason I stopped was that I was feeling very vulnerable, and I was going through a lot in my life, and I just didn't feel fully comfortable being in front of the camera for a while. So anyway, I feel very thankful to be in such a grounded spot. So you guys, stay tuned for more videos. If you liked what you saw today, please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Chop chop.